Hi, everyone. We are so glad to be with you today to talk about AI in the world of work management. This is something that is really interesting. We often think of AI in the sense of generative AI and content creation, but there's huge benefit and application in bringing the capabilities of AI into the way we enable work each and every day. So Scott and I are really excited to talk to you about that. We're going to share some theory. We're going to talk about practice and practical applications because Scott is using many of these capabilities in his day-to-day work today. But I wanted to start with some introductions so you know who we are. I'm Kari Wolf. I'm a principal product marketing manager at Adobe. I've been in the marketing space for more than 30 years. Sometimes I hate to admit that, but it's true. I've been with Adobe for 9 years, and a fun fact is that I am a Workfront boomeranger. I was with Workfront before they were acquired. I came to Adobe, and when Workfront was acquired as a key linchpin to the Adobe portfolio, I made sure I could get back on this team because I'm really passionate about the product. I think it has such a relevant value proposition. Eliminating work chaos is something I'm keenly interested in doing, as I'm sure all of you are as well. So I'm excited to be here with you today, and even more excited to have Scott Moores joining me. And I'd like to give him a moment to introduce himself.
Thank you, Kari. So I'm Scott Moores, as you mentioned, and I work for ThyssenKrupp System Engineering. So we build assembly lines for automation for many industries. So we use Workfront more in a operations and manufacturing aspect than marketing. So we have a lot of great use cases, and AI has really helped us. We're going to cover some of that. But I've been in operations and manufacturing for over 25 years, Workfront sysadmin for 6 years. And right now I'm leading our AI and our robotic processing initiatives within our company. So we have several actions going on within our company that we're taking part in and trying to improve our workflow, and Adobe is one of those. I have partnered up with many of the Adobe AI engineers in exploring some ways in which we can make AI do more things for us. So it's been exciting to work behind the scenes and trying to build things up that may be coming in the future.
Thank you, Scott. And I just want to reinforce that last point he made. Scott is on a first name basis with the AI engineers at Adobe that are developing and refining the capabilities we're going to talk about today. And as we've been preparing for this presentation, it's been really fun for me to see the depth of his knowledge and how he's sometimes aware of things even before I am. So it is a real privilege to have him here sharing both his knowledge about Adobe's plans and his expertise as a practitioner using them. So this is our agenda. We're going to talk about AI's role in the future of work management. Then we'll cover some Workfront AI features that are currently available and that you can all go try out immediately after this session. We'll tease some upcoming Workfront AI features that we're very excited about. And then before we hit Q&A, Scott and I have each curated a list of tips and tricks that we think are going to help you on your journey to AI proficiency. So let's start with how AI is transforming the work management landscape. Like I said earlier, I think we're all very familiar with generative AI, but when you think about AI as a way to automate tasks, to enhance processes, to optimize the way we get things done, the potential is just limitless. And so we're seeing huge interest in AI-driven transformation in marketing organizations and beyond. So this is really unlocking a new era of marketing productivity. And I think this stat is very interesting. In our 2025 Digital Trends report, we found that more than half of senior executives who are using AI report significant improvements in team efficiency. And this is remarkable because AI is a relatively new technology. I've seen many transformative technologies in my time as a product marketer, but nothing that approaches the scope and the scale and the breathtaking speed of AI. And so what we're finding is that teams are feeling urgency to get on the bandwagon, to start using it, to begin to understand how it's going to improve their speed and scale, because without it, teams will struggle to keep up. And we hope this session is going to help you in that quest to get ahead of the curve and to do some really great things with AI that will make you more efficient than ever. So one thing we get asked quite often is, when should you invite AI to the table? We all know that AI has application in many, many places, but there's also a fear that it can do everything, that it can take over every process and task that humans are accustomed to doing. That simply isn't true. We really view AI as an augmentation of human capability and something that helps automate away the repetitive or time-consuming work that takes away from strategic pursuits. So that's the first thing. If you have tasks that are repetitive, that are time-consuming, that are laborious, that are preventing your people from doing what they do best, that's a perfect time to bring AI to the table. The second use case is when a task is particularly data-heavy. AI is brilliant at mining data, at collating and collecting information from many different sources and synthesizing it so it can be actioned upon. And that's the second case where you should absolutely not hesitate in bringing AI to the table. The third use case is when you have a need or a task or a process that is rule-based, but still requires some flexibility. In other words, some contextual relevancy. AI is definitely capable of this, of applying the rules, but looking at a little bit of nuance and context to ensure that the right result is achieved. And then finally, when you're bottlenecked by human capacity, and I think this is something every single one of you is probably nodding your head at, we are getting more and more pressure to generate more and more output, whatever your industry, whatever department you work in. We are all being asked to do more than we are humanly capable of doing. And that's why we need AI to come in and help in the areas where it is best suited to do the work, and we can continue to do the things that humans are uniquely capable of doing. Now, this is a list of some Workfront AI features that are currently available in the product: smart filters, catch me up, summarization, and as a non-numbers person, my personal favorite, formula generation. But instead of talking about them generically, I want to have Scott talk to you and show you how he is using them in his work at ThyssenKrupp today.
Thank you, Kari. So as I mentioned, we use our Workfront instance to run our entire operation. So that means every department from the beginning to the end: manufacturing, health and safety. So we have a lot of tasks. Some of our projects have tasks upwards to 200 for each project within a program. And we could go into greater detail on that, but this is about AI. So let's talk about that. So AI helps us very quickly summarize where we're going and what we're doing within a day. So in this first one, we constantly have this debate within Workfront on whether we use the homepage or priorities. But we have found that priorities really helps us out due to the AI features that have been built into the priorities. First of all, in filters, you can see here we have a filter screen pulled up in which we can use AI to do some kind of natural language filters if you want. But also there's some suggested filters that are shown here on the screen. So if you're looking for a task or a project, you can simply type it in, or if you want it to summarize certain things, you can do that here. But the next feature, which is really nice, is Catch Me Up. So if you've been away for a few days, or if you need to kind of figure out what you've done over the last few days, you can use the Catch Me Up feature. So you just simply click on it, a window opens up, which is our AI window, and you can type Catch Me Up. You can summarize the last 24 hours, the last day, or the last 7 days. So if we take a look and we click on the last few days, we can see that it goes through each of the different projects that are shown in the screen to the left and kind of gives you an update of what's going on in those projects within the last 7 days. So if we look at the next one, there's actually a little bit of activity, more so than the other two. But here we have, there was 2 new comments on the project, and it gives you a link that you can quickly click the link and get to it. So it's a great feature to summarize your work really quickly if you have a lot of tasks or projects that you're participating on. So the next feature is summarizing, which again, Kari will also show you a different way in summarizing. But with the AI assistant, if you have a project or a program that has many projects underneath it, or a project that has many tasks, it can very easily summarize. This screen is showing us here that we're summarizing a program. And it will just give us a high-level view of what's going on within that program. If you click again, we can kind of see all the information that it provides us when we say summarize this program. If we go to the next screen, we're going to see a project. So now let's summarize a project. And as I mentioned, our projects, and you can kind of see by some of the task numbers there, that our projects have about 200 tasks. So it's a lot of information that a project manager will have to go through to kind of see where the project is heading. If we hit summarize the project, we see something very similar than when we summarize the program. And we get a little bit more information, though, about how each task is progressing or those that are late, some comments that were made. But it gives a project manager a very high-level view of how that project is performing. This has been very helpful with our project managers as they start to get ready for project reviews with our executive team. Another area of AI that's really exciting for us that helps us as sysadmins is formula generation. So sometimes formula generation can really get you tied up as they're not always the same, and you might get one thing wrong or a little comma in the wrong place. Here in this example, we use date diff. So we just asked for it to create a formula for the difference in the day. And the generated the formula for us, so we were able to put it in. Now, let's say you do something a little more difficult and you maybe forgot something, and you see in the bottom, you get the little red box that says this is an invalid custom expression. And you're looking and you just can't figure it out. So you can use AI to say, rewrite the formula to remove the invalid custom expression, which we've done. And now we've got a new expression or a corrected expression, which now works. So AI has helped us quite a bit in speeding along our custom fields when we're trying to do some of these formulas. So now let's talk a little bit about prompting. When we use AI, prompting is the key to getting the answers that you want. And some of us have experienced this with other software programs, but the art to getting the answer that you want the first time is to understand how to ask the question. So some of the key basics in prompting is start with what you want. What are you object or formula or something like that you're going after? So simply put it in the beginning, I want a formula. And then give some details about what you want. So identify two fields or maybe another object. And then also if you give AI the expected result, then it can check itself to see if maybe it's getting the right result or not. And if not, it allows you to rephrase or ask additional questions to potentially refine your list. What's key is prompting may seem technical, but it's an art. And one of the best examples that we have for that is to share your artwork as if you were to draw a picture or something of that nature. In our company, we have a bulletin board in which we share prompting examples so that others don't have to try to create and get the same result as maybe their neighbor did. Here are some examples of some prompts to share with you. So create a formula that shows, or help me find who is subscribed to my project, generate text mode to pull username into initial report. These are actual examples off of our bulletin board that we have shared with our colleagues within our company. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kari to talk about AI agents.
Thank you so much, Scott. I just think this is golden information from someone who is really ahead of the curve, who is using AI in context. You were able to see Scott's actual project, his actual programs, and the way AI is coming into play to make he and his team even more efficient than they already were. So, Scott, thank you. Really appreciate you being willing to share. Yes, we wanted to talk a little bit about agents. This is something you're probably hearing a lot about. There is generative AI capability, and there are AI agents, which are essentially collections of skills. You could think of it as a collection of skills or intelligent operators that are capable of helping you to interpret your goals, create and take action on plans, and even work independently in addition to alongside you and your team. And agents can follow a spectrum. So it ranges from the low end, which includes things like single step responses or activity that is specifically directed by humans and that is grounded in more generic or publicly available data, all the way to high AI agentic capabilities that do multi-step reasoning, that can take autonomous activity within boundaries that you set, and that are grounded in your own proprietary data or contextually relevant information that you have fed into the system. So this is a really interesting way that you're going to see a lot of organizations, including Adobe, bring AI capabilities to market. And so we'll be releasing the workflow optimization agent, which is going to include the skills that have particular relevancy for work management and automating and optimizing processes. So one of these is Smart Sort. I wanted to give you a quick look at what this means. It's essentially an intelligent way of prioritizing your task list or your to-do list as a user. Today, that's typically done based on due date, which is a very good default. It's something that makes sense for a lot of people. But again, there's a lot of intelligence in the Workfront system that can add to that ranking and make it a lot more nuanced and useful. For example, in this case, the tasks have been reordered based on things like tasks that are blocking someone else from completing an important task, or tasks that will require an approval process that might add a few days to the expected time frame, depending on how quickly the reviewer can respond. Maybe this is a project with very high priority, or your focus is high on this particular project. You're in the zone and it just makes sense to do a few more of these tasks while you're at it. This is a really, really key way of getting the most productivity out of each and every person on your team and helping them see how much they're adding to the organization's success and business goals. The next capability is project health, and Scott alluded to this. When you are wondering how a project is doing, it's very easy just to look at the system and say, well, everything seems on track. But I think what we have learned is that on track doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So this capability, this project health advisor, is capable of giving you a score, a project health score, which you can see here, based on the schedule, the scope, and the budget or the resources. So if you're finding that the project is not where you want it to be, you can drill into those three areas and see, hey, the schedule looks particularly at risk here. Let's find out what's going on. And it will tell you things like several tasks have been moved out, so they were underestimated to begin with. Or a lot of tasks have been added to this project after it was created, so maybe it wasn't scoped properly. The really beautiful thing is that in addition to telling you what's going on with the project, it gives you the ability to take action. For example, if a schedule is at risk because a person is over allocated, instead of having to go into the resource management portion of Workfront and find someone else to reassign the task to, this project health advisor is going to make a recommendation and give you the opportunity to activate it right there in the AI assistant panel. So really, really powerful stuff. The next area for workflow optimization is review and approval. And I think we all know this has become kind of the new bottleneck as generative AI increases the amount of content that can be created by creative organizations and marketing teams. Review and approval becomes the next bottleneck, and it's more important than ever when you're relying on AI to create content. You need to ensure that content is meeting your brand guidelines and is suitable for activation. So in this case, what you can do is upload your brand guidelines into the system and then create a reviewer, just like you would a person, that essentially encompasses those brand standards. You can then assign that brand reviewer to review a piece of content. It will go through and compare everything it knows about the imagery guidelines. It will make comments. It will say it needs work. It will tell you, in this case, for example, we like active imagery, not passive imagery. So we need the designer to go back and take another crack. Again, this is not intended to replace humans' role in review and approval, but rather to ensure that some of those basics like logo placement and image guidelines are where they should be before you have people take time to review a piece of content. Our customers are really, really excited about this capability. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is AI-powered briefs. Now, we all hate duplicate data entry. There's nothing worse than being asked to enter data that you've already created in other systems or in other formats before. In this case, You're going to be using information that you've already documented to create a brief to kick off a project. So you can upload a PDF or a PowerPoint or a Word document. It is going to compare the information in that document to the custom fields in your brief, and it will populate everything that it can find a match for and give you a chance to review that information. So again, a very quick way of automating away the mundane, kicking off a project quickly, ensuring accuracy, and eliminating the time lag and the error that can be introduced when you're asking people to duplicate information that already exists. So these are some teasers we wanted to make sure you're aware of, things that you can be looking forward to in the very near future with Workfront. But with that, I wanted to invite Scott to share his top 3 tips. I know there's a lot of information here. We wanted to just kind of round up the 3 things each of us think you should be focused on and doing right now as you exit this session. So Scott, over to you.
Sure, thank you. So again, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, understanding AI prompting. Mastering the skill how to ask the questions and share your artwork will help you be very successful in using the AI. Keywords when using prompting will help you and also, again, gets you to the artwork of prompting. If you go to Experience League, they've already given a few ideas of what keywords to use when you do the prompting. The last thing is AI feedback. So AI is only as good as the feedback that we give it. If you've seen throughout these demos that there was a thumbs up or a feedback button, give it its thumbs up or thumbs down and give the feedback. The AI engineers truly use that feedback to continually improve AI and teach it where it did things right and did things wrong to get better results. This AI is learning every day. It's new to the Workfront environment, and so it still has a lot to learn, and you're part of that learning opportunity by providing its feedback.
That is so true, Scott. We sometimes talk about AI as a child that needs to be raised, that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be taught. And so the more you use it, the smarter it gets and the more it will be capable of helping you. I should say too, in our tips, you'll see some underlined content. These are links that will populate so you are able to access that information. So you can look in the chat for those links. Here are my 3 tips. First of all, there is an Adobe AI writer that is required to use all but basic AI features. This is a document that your organization needs to sign, and your legal or IT team might need a bit of a heads up, or they might need a bit of runway to complete their due diligence. So what we find is that it's really great if Workfront users are asking their Workfront admin, have we signed the AI writer? And if not, to give a little nudge to make sure that process gets underway. You don't want to have all the interest and all the need to use these capabilities and be delayed because that writer hasn't yet been signed. So the sooner you get that started, the better. To help you do that, there is an AI security fact sheet that Adobe has produced, and then a Harvard Business Review piece on the unique way that Adobe approaches AI security and risk that you can share, again, with your IT team or your legal organization, just to help build confidence in all of the care and thought that has been put into the way Adobe as a whole is approaching AI. And then my final tip is to implement AI with workflows that you have already optimized, that are clean, that are working the way you want them to. If you overlay AI on a broken process, you're just inviting more chaos. So our recommendation is to clean house and then add the new decorations or the new furnishings. That's definitely the way to go. And our final recommendation is to just get on the AI bike. This image is really familiar. We've all seen kids that are in such a hurry to get where they're going that they're running alongside their bike instead of hopping on, taking the time to get on and pedal and trust that they will get where they need to go more quickly that way. So we encourage everyone to get on the bike, to start your AI journey, to begin learning, to experiment, to see where you are finding particular value, to help the system get smart, and to roll it out in ways that make sense for your organization. And as a final call to action, there are a couple of things that Scott and I talked about that we think would be most beneficial as you finish this session and look to take advantage of the things we've talked about. The first is to click on the AI Assistant button in Workfront. This is going to open up that panel in the right rail and give you access to summarization and formula generation and all of the things that Scott showed you earlier. The second thing is to try out the Catch Me Up button. It's just such a simple way of seeing what the system can tell you, whether you've been out of the office or not. See what it can tell you about what's happening with the project. An at-a-glance bird's eye view is so valuable. So those are two things you can go click on right after this session. Try it out. Get on that bike. And so with that, we're really happy to have shared some information. We hope it was helpful. And now we would love to take your questions and see what you would like to know more about.